Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We are going to continue reading the book الأجوبة الجلية في الأحكام الحنبلية, or the clear answer to Hanbali Rulings, by a Sheikh Musa bin Issa al-Qaddoomi rahimahullah. This is lesson number 18 on al-Haydh and al-Nifaas. Let us begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allamna bima yanfa'una wa zidna 'ilman wa yaqinan wa fahman wa 'amalan ya Rabbil Alameen. قال المؤلف rahimahullah نفى الله به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين آمين. باب الحيض والنفاس. سؤال ما هو الحيض? So the author says the section on Haydh and Nifaas, and question number 39, what is Haydh? Just as a reminder, we are reading the translation of a Sheikh Khalid Shah, and we are on page 53. And the author goes on to define al-Haydh. He says, it is natural bleeding that exits from a healthy woman other than birth. It is at specific intervals. There is no Haydh before the age of 9, nor after the age of 50. It cannot occur during pregnancy. So Haydh in English is usually menstruation or menses or period. I think the definition is clear from what the author said, and this is what's in many other books. It has quite a similar wording. So one thing to also pay attention here, when the author is mentioning these ages, 9 and 50, once again, we're talking about lunar years. So he said that there's no Haydh for someone below the age of 9. That means in the case that there is some kind of a bleeding, this is then not considered Haydh or menstruation, and it takes a ruling of dam al-fasid. So this dam al-fasid, it's like irregular or abnormal bleeding. It's not considered the menstruation. And regarding the age of 9, it's mentioned in a sharh that not na'lam fi dhalika khilafan, so we don't know any difference in that issue. And regarding the maximum age of 50, this is according to the statement of Aisha radiallahu anha, where she said, إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْمَرْأَةُ 50 سَنَةٍ خَرَجَتْ مِنْ حَدِّ الْحَيْضِ. So if a woman reaches 50 years, she is beyond the limit of the age for Haydh or menstruation. And in this case, for the woman older 50, in case she does have some type of bleeding, this is once again considered the dam fasid, and in her case it wouldn't interrupt things, for example, like fasting and prayer. And Shaykhuna Dr. Mustafa, he mentioned that while it's true that a woman over 50 can have a child, it's still, any bleeding over the age of 50 is considered dam fasid, even for that particular woman. So likewise for the pregnant woman, if she sees any type of bleeding, it's not considered menstruation. She does not stop praying, and intercourse with her is not forbidden. However, in her case, if it stops, it is preferred or recommended that she does the ghusl. The author goes on, number 40, what is the minimum, maximum, and general length of time of Haydh? And he replies, the minimum is a day and a night, the maximum is 15 days, generally it is 6 or 7 days. And he continues, number 41, what is the least tuhr, in parentheses, state of purity, between the two Haydhs or two menstruations? And he replies, the minimum tuhr is 13 days. Generally, it is the rest of the month, in parentheses 29 or 30 days. There is no maximum limit for tuhr. So now this brings the question, what if there is bleeding for a period that's less than a day and a night or more than 15 days? So in the case where it's less than a day and a night, this will also be considered the dam fasad, the type of abnormal bleeding. So the things that the hayd or the menstruation will necessitate or prohibit won't count here. Likewise, if it goes beyond the 15 days, this is considered istihada. Istihada is a type of prolonged bleeding, and once again, the woman with istihada will not have the certain prohibitions that a woman that hayd has. And the rulings for the woman with istihada is that she should have some type of cover to absorb the bleeding. She will pray and fast. In the case of prayer, she must do wudu before every prayer with the intention of istibaha, or making it permissible. But however, in that state of istihada, intercourse is prohibited. Now, istihada is not only fixed at 15 days. There's another concept here, that the period of bleeding that repeats for 3 months is then considered the normal period of the woman. Now, in the case that she bleeds beyond her normal period, this will also be considered istihada. So the text mentioned that 6 or 7 days is the normal. Maybe it could even be more. Maybe she has established over 3 months that 9 days is what is normal for her. But then if she were to bleed longer than that, going like 10 days or more, this would also be considered istihada. So istihada is either when it goes beyond 15 days or it goes beyond the time that is normal. The rulings on al-Haydh and al-Nifaas are a little extensive. I find what the author has put in this book is a bit brief, but inshallah, we're going to benefit with what we're looking at here. And so far, most of what I've been relating has been from Nail al-Marib, Sharh Dalil al-Talib. Now, let's look at some of the things that al-Hayd, or the menstruation, necessitates, and we're looking here at what's mentioned in Nail. So, number 1, it necessitates that the woman should make al-ghusl as soon as the hayd ends. We know that the hayd, it also necessitates identifying al-bulugh, or becoming physically mature, as the Prophet ﷺ has said, "La yaqbalu Allahu salata ha'idin illa bi khimar." So Allah does not accept the prayer of the one in menstruation except by wearing a khimar, and this is narrated by Al-Imam Ahmed. It also necessitates that al-kafara, or the expiation, be paid in case there's intercourse during the menstruation. And this includes if it was done out of forgetfulness of the menstruation, or being unaware of it, or unaware of its ruling. Its expiation is to pay 1 dinar or half of a dinar. I think one can look online to see what that estimated cost is at the time that you're listening. There is a choice that one pays either the dinar or half of dinar, and Al-Buhuti says in Sharh al-Muntaha that one has a choice of paying just as the traveler has a choice of shortening the prayer or completing it. The exception about paying would be in the condition that the woman was forced to have intercourse. In that case, she would not be required herself to pay the expiation. Now, the things that will be prohibited for her will still be prohibited for her even after the bleeding stops, except for and before she makes or until she makes the ghusl or the tayammum, except for a few exceptions. And these include fasting, as the obligation for al-ghusl doesn't apply to that. And in other cases, she's like the junub, or the one with the sexual impurity. So at that point, she can divorce, and if she makes al-wudu, she can sit in the masjid. So once again, we're talking about the woman whose menstruation has stopped and she hasn't done the ghusl or tayammum. All things are still prohibited that are on the list of prohibitions, which we'll talk about in detail, except for fasting, divorce, and sitting in the masjid if she has wudu. So the woman who has hayd or nifas, and nifas is the postpartum bleeding, they make up the fasting but not the prayer. The author goes on, number 42, what is nifas and what is the maximum and minimum length of time? He replies, it is blood that comes out after birth or 2 or 3 days before birth. It is a maximum of 40 days and there's no minimum limit for it. So once again, we're talking here about the maximum time. So any bleeding that would go on beyond the 40 days would then be considered istihada and have the same rulings that we previously discussed. Likewise, the woman who's in the state of nifas, in case she has intercourse, she will have the same kafara as the woman who has intercourse during menstruation. And as for the case where a child is born without blood, and it may sound unusual, but this was witnessed during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, she can fast and pray. And this is what was mentioned by Shaykhana Dr. Mustafa. Now we're at question 43. What is haram in hayd and nifas? And he replies, during hayd and nifas, it is haram, A, to have intercourse, B, to pray salat, C, to fast, D, do tawaf, E, recite Quran, F, touch a mushaf, G, remain in a masjid. And then he concludes, when the woman is purified from these states, she must make up the missed fasts, but not the salah or prayer. So regarding the prohibited things during hayd and nifas, the first is having intercourse. And this was, of course, mentioned in the Quran, at least with regards to al-hayd specifically. The exception for this would be for the person whose shahwa or desire is overcoming him, and he's having fear of doing something haram like zina if he doesn't have intercourse with his wife. But this might seem of a bit of an extreme situation, but it could be possible. And of course, having intercourse during the state of hayd would be preferable to zina. Now, al-Qaddoomi, he has shortened the list that Shaykh Mar'i al-Karmi had in the Dalil. So after intercourse, if we look at how the list is in a Dalil, it mentions a talaq or divorce. And this type of divorce during the hayd and nifas is called the talaq bid'ah, or the innovated divorce, because it extends the period of the iddah, or the period of waiting. However, an important point, although this type of divorce is haram, prohibited, in the case that someone does do the divorce during the hayd and nifas, it is still a valid divorce. Haram, but valid. Prayer is also prohibited. This includes the fard and nafil, the obligatory and supererogatory. Fasting, also prohibited. Performing any kind of fasting is prohibited. Tawaf, or going around the Kaaba, is also prohibited. This includes also the obligatory and supererogatory forms of that. Recitation of the Quran is also prohibited. The exception would be for a Quranic dua or supplication. So any dua from the Quran can be read with the intention that it's being read as a supplication, not as Quran. Touching the Mus'haf is also prohibited, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يمسه إلا المتطهرون. Staying in the masjid is also prohibited, and this also goes for the one in the state of janaba, and the one in the state of janaba is taking the same ruling as the one in menstruation or postpartum bleeding regarding reading Quran as well. And Abu Dawood, he narrated the hadith that Rasulullah ﷺ said, لا أحل المسجد لحائد ولا للجنب. So the masjid is not allowed for the menstruating woman or the person in the state of janaba. However, the menstruating or postpartum bleeding woman, she can pass through the masjid if there's no fear that she might contaminate something, as in a physical contamination. Otherwise, it would be prohibited. This just reminds me of an issue I want to raise here, but discussing this really highlights the importance of having female scholarship. First of all, to be able to personally experience the issues gives someone more knowledge and credibility to talk about them and their rulings. Likewise, it breaks the barrier of people being shy. I mean, theoretically, this is an obligatory knowledge. We shouldn't feel shy. And I mean, it's not a shame for a woman to ask a male scholar, for example, about these things, if everything is done in a dignified way. But that said, I mean, we are all normal people, and at the same time, to have some shyness about these things is also normal, and even sometimes a good thing. I mean, like I said, there's kind of a fine line between not being shy to ask questions about obligatory knowledge, whereas being too comfortable doing so can also be a sign of something else that is wrong. We know for a lot of reasons it's more normal that there will be more male scholars than female scholars, but still we want to see more female scholarship. It helps us in a lot of ways. Even one of the most beautiful mukhtasar or summaries of Dalil al-Talib was by a Shaykhat Fatima Zubairi, rahimahullah. Unfortunately, she passed away before she could finish it. I think she only got to the section on the combining of the prayers. But as I said, I hope that when we study these kind of things, it will also let us reflect on the importance and need for more qualified female scholarship. And also these female scholars, it's not necessary that they be Shaykhat al-Islam, but female scholars, you see a lot of them, they are specialists in like this area of fiqh. So I just hope that we can encourage more of our sisters to follow the path of scholarship. So I'm sorry if I've gone a bit long on that issue. I do want to also say, for those who are following the series, congratulations, we have completed the book of Tahara. So we will, inshallah, the next lesson be starting the part of Salah or prayer. Thank you for following the series. If you have any comments, please let me know. I don't know, is this too complicated? Am I talking too much? Do people want something shorter? I'm hoping that for people who are studying this maybe as a first or second book, it's at an appropriate level, inshallah ta'ala. As always, please don't forget us in your dua and that of all the Muslimin, especially those Muslimin who are living in times and places of fitna. May Allah grant them victory and peace. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.